No, that's such a great project to just sort of fall into, though. I love that.
Hmm.
And then how did hat collecting come about?
That is kind of a culmination. So I've kind of explained this before that I about 7 8 years ago, when I sort of started on the original trajectory that I'm kind of still on, with just trying to find a creative project that would scratch my itches and make me feel fulfilled because my job didn't.
Hmm.
And I started a blog and I started a podcast, and the podcast I was interviewing people, and they were basically all people that I knew because that's who I sort of had access to. And I would interview them about their like job or their area of expertise, and just try to like learn something from them and share it with my audience. And that's all what I like. I like doing that. And I did that for about a year and a half, and then I stopped for various reasons. And then a couple years later, I was like, I miss interviewing people. I want to do that again, but I want to do it a little bit differently. So then I did like a video format thing, and I did a talk show kind of thing, but it was based around like random facts. And I had fun with that, but it was also a lot of work. And so I did 10 episodes, and then I stopped. And then a few more years go by, and I'm just like, man, I'm itching to interview people again. I I don't know why, but that just seems to like really be a thing that kind of works for me.
Hmm.
And so I was like, I need to do it again. And I but I wanted to like, because obviously I've done these different projects and I didn't want to just keep, so I kind of I just it's been a theme throughout my kind of like adult life that I have all these different interests and I do all these different things, and I just literally cannot pick one thing. I have to kind of bounce around and have that kind of freedom.
Hmm.
So I but I also realize that, people, even if they have like a main job, like if they're an accountant or if they're a lawyer or if they're a construction worker or whatever, like that's never the only, like, no one does just one thing, and everyone has a story. And that's the tagline of the show, because that's what I realized, that I came up with a set of questions to kind of coax out that story and to kind of trace, like loosely trace people's path and look at, kind of like you're saying, where did you start? And so it's like, what was your childhood dream? And it doesn't matter if you didn't end up doing it or not, but it's just, it's interesting to kind of to see that, and where you are and what happened in between. And yeah, it's kind of evolved into, uh it's got this kind of like life of its own now, and I'm really enjoying, like, again, learning from different people, getting their perspective, getting their wisdom, their advice, and sharing it with people.
Hmm. Yeah, I like that, and
And
just kind of finding, just figuring out what makes people tick. Like, okay, yeah, at this point, late in your life, you've settled into this as your thing, and then you've said before that that's what you identify as. But there are so many other things that you do, and so many other things that went into making you who you are. That I love that
mhm.
this kind of study of humanity and how people settle into things and the other things that they're into. I love that.
Yeah. Another thing I love about the show is it kind of started based around that idea of that, we're supposed to have so much of our lives figured out by the age of 30, and a lot of these other common cultural narratives and ideas have kind of come forward, and I base several of the questions on them because I'm like, I want to challenge these ideas because, again, I think a lot of people just, they kind of hear it, or it's kind of implied, and they just accept it, but they're not true, they're not accurate, and they kind of hurt people sometimes. So I like to hear, present these ideas to my guests, and kind of get there, and like, yeah, everyone's just kind of like, yeah, I know, I didn't have hardly anything figured out by 30, or like, just what are some of the other, there's a few other of these, like, these ideas that, um
Mm.
that I've kind of pushed back against, and I feel like that's become a part of the heart of the show as well.
Yeah, that touches on the thing that always that bummed me out when I got older was that you have this idea as a kid that adults know what they're doing. Adults always seem to know what they're doing and they've got the adult thing down or whatever. And then you get older and you're like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I don't know how to make decisions. Like I'm just trying and stumbling. Like I have no idea. But I thought adults were supposed to know when they. So I love, yeah, kind of
Yeah. Uh,
taking apart some of those tropes.
Yeah, and my goal is eventually, like, I've had one elderly person on the show so far, and I wanna have more. I wanna have teenagers on, like, I wanna literally get, like, kind of all of, different parts of society to kinda share their perspectives and their experiences, and but I just, for anyone who's watching, I want everyone who watches to be able to get something out of each episode. So I want, and that's why I end the show on, advice for a teenager, advice for a 30-year-old, and advice for, like, an elder, because it's interesting. And a lot of this is another idea. A lot of people are like, oh, I don't think I would have anything to say to an older person. And that's an idea that, again, a lot of us have internalized, that like people that are older than us, we can't teach them anything because they're wiser. And it's like, no, there's everyone can teach everyone something. And so I'm trying to, to get those ideas, and just, if any, because again, I would love for like teenagers, or for my show, like I keep my show clean and PG, because it would be awesome if it could be, shown in schools, or parents could watch it with their kids, and learn something from that, and kind of help them see their future a little bit differently, and maybe a little bit more optimistically, or something like that. And that just, I love that.
Oh, that's so wonderful. And that's a interesting note on the show. I do try not to swear on this show, but yeah, I wonder if like there is some thought to be had of, what
I mean,
could open
yeah,
it up
that's
a little bit more to a wider
That's
audience.
just the decision that I've made, because I've always wanted to try and keep my stuff more accessible, and more, just applicable to more people. And like, I do swear in real life. I do have some less popular ideas, but yeah, the show, I try to keep it like genuine and wholesome, and just and really, again, highlight the guest, highlight their story. It's about them, not about me. And hopefully everyone that watches can learn something from each episode.